Greetings and aloha, what's going on? It's Mike's from LiveMyAssOff.com. I'm down here at one end of my favorite walking beach for the day, which is Kamala Beach, which goes a long way, all the way over to there. And we're gonna go for a walk, and I'm gonna see how long it takes. I can record for about an hour and 16 minutes, I believe, on this memory stick. But I just wanted to start it off, and I wanted to let you know that I'm starting it off so that it counts. So there we go. And we'll see how long it takes us to get to the next one. Additionally, I waited for a guy that was coming down here, and his version of making it count during his Long Beach walk was he came to this rope, and then he put his hands on his hips, and then he turned around and walked the other way. Guess who's cooler? Just throwing it out there. One of the things I used to really love to do when I was a kid is go out on my boat. And as part of that, I like to, and yeah, I could only do that where I grew up for about 3 months out of the year. And, but what I would do in the other months is I would go to the marinas and the shipyards where they would be repairing boats, right? And guys are like always working on their motors, and that happens and stuff. But I saw this and I thought, this is so cool. This is like the Thai version of a shipyard. Because this guy, he's got, you know, the thing keeled over there, and or not completely keeled over, but to the side, and he's working on the bottom. And they have like the sticks that are holding it up, you know? And then this one, he's got the sticks holding it up, and he's done a great job at removing all of the paint on the side. And then like shellacked it, basically. It looks fantastic. And then the bottom there, where he's put the bottom paint, it just looks, I just like it. And you know, you guys have been following me a little while. You probably heard me mention like certain things that I like that I can do like forever, right? One of them is walking on the beach until I basically pass out. I love walking on the beach. The next thing is sitting and listening to the waves. I can do that for hours on end. Additionally, I can sit there and I can look at bonfires for a very long time. And now that woman is collecting shells over there, I believe. And I will tell you that of all the beaches I've been to globally, it's interesting because sometimes there'll be like shell beaches and they have a lot of shells. And then there's the beaches that I've experienced here in Thailand, which are like essentially zero shells. It looked like she was looking at little snail kind of like shell type animals back there. I'm not really sure, but anyway, so now, pardon me. Now in the distance are homes that I cannot even fathom the cost of, just because I don't know the real estate market, quite frankly. I'm sure they're in the millions of dollars, not the millions of baht. A whole bunch of new ones being built up there on the hill, and then a whole bunch of them already built on the hill. I believe that is the area, because basically if you go down the end of this and then there's like a 7-Eleven and you take a right, you kind of like go up a hill there. It's an awesome drive, actually. And I wish there were roads like that, basically back roads like that, all the way from here to like Karan or Kata, or Patong for that matter. But you got to go on these like 4-lane roads to get the, which I wasn't in the mood to do today. My goal every day is one new beach. But considering I have never walked all the way from there, I think the longest amount of distance I've walked would be from pretty much where this seawall ends right there. That's where I believe I started my first walk on this beach. The first time I came to Phuket in 2014 or 15, I can't remember. It was before I met Gracie, so it was before 2017. So it might have been 2016. Anyway, that's the longest I've ever walked this beach. And so this beach that I'm on right now is technically a new beach, but you get the point. But also the neat thing about this beach is that if you recall from yesterday's live stream, there wasn't this much real estate actually available. The tide was in, and if you don't know, I wondered like whether I was just having a bad memory or didn't realize it, because I in New England am used to having 2 tides a day. And in the Gulf of Thailand, because of the way that the water is situated, and I guess its latitude, a couple other reasons, I'm not remembering why, They have one tide a day. And I was like, oh my God, because my dad and I were talking about that. And I'm like, look, I mean, the way I grew up, the way we grew up, and the further north, I mean, the bigger the delta, right? Because like, if you guys have ever heard of or been to or feel like Googling right now, the Bay of Fundy in Nova Scotia, the tide there changes by like, I think like 2 meters within 15-20 minutes. I mean, and people like literally drive there, park their car, and like wait for high tide and watch it rush in or watch it rush out. So it's the infamous natural tourist attraction, nature's tourist attraction. So anyway, so where those 2 boats are right there, those are the 2 boats that are actually right in front of my hotel. And my hotel is on the 2nd floor of that building there with the big red roof, and it's down towards the end. And right, well, you probably can't see it, but right to the right of the boats, there's a gentleman sitting there. There's a woman with a pink shirt. I don't know if that's coming through on the camera, but she's like walking down there. Anyway, where this ramp goes down, this road right here, like right at the end of that, this road then takes a 90 and goes straight inland, and that sort of becomes sort of the downtownish little town area of Kamala. And so that's where I started the first time, right there at that ramp, and started walking down here. Now the other nice thing, and the, in air quotes, new beach part of what I'm experiencing right now, is this water. Well, okay, so you see the green bridge, right? And so yesterday, for example, I mean, I could have walked through, you know, a meter of water, of course, and then gone to the other side. But pretty much the only way I could have gotten from that stone wall there to that stone wall there is go over that green bridge. But today, I believe I'm going to be able to walk through this water in front of me, because I don't believe that it is any more than about 5 or 6 inches deep. Famous last words, right? I love this kind of beach, like when the tide goes out, when the low tide goes out, and it's like really hard packed. I mean, you could like run on this in bare feet, which is such a great way to run, in my opinion. It can't be like, you know, gravel, because that really hurts your feet. But if it's a sand that I'm on right now, that's really nice. If it's sand like there is in Boracay, it's amazing, which is white powdery sand. And oh my God, this water's so warm. Oh, and it's got like, you know how like when you get into water and it's like, it feels cool, like in certain spots, and then it's like warm and everything? That's what I got going on right now. I love doing this. I literally could walk in water like this deep. That's another thing I could do for hours, is I could walk right at the shore and walk on water this deep. And just so you know, these are actually pieces of seaweed. It's not poop. Because I know it comes from a river there, and the tide is going out with significant speed and force on my feet, to the point where, you know how like if you stand in the sand and then the water goes around you, your feet start sinking in the sand, and it like pulls all the sand away from you. So like right now, my heels are now 1 inch deeper than they were when I was first walking here. So anyway, these are the things that I like to experience, and so therefore I thought, well, I guess I like to share them then too. But yeah, this is well, this is what I refer to as one of the many things in my life now that, quite frankly, is literally perfect. This is extraordinarily ordinary. This is one of these scenarios that I believe many people would label as beautiful. They would potentially call it a postcard. I know for a fact, I actually saw postcards in a nearby 7-Eleven where it was like this. You know, so for like 10 baht, you can get a picture of it. Or you can watch me on YouTube. I believe the latter is infinitely more beneficial, but yeah, I am digging this whole scenario right now. Beach walk when it is almost perfectly flat, in about 2 to 3 inches of water, and then I get to listen to this. And if I want to make a little bit more noise, then I just move my feet faster. And that, my friends, is Mike's. Oh my God, the water is so warm right here. I mean, it's like too hot kind of warm. Well, sorry, there's no such thing as too hot in my world. Until I actually start doing space travel and I get significantly closer to the sun. So far, I've never been in an area where I'm like, oh my God, this is just simply too hot for me. No, I'm good. like steam rooms, saunas, that sort of thing. And I love steam rooms because I'm a heat and humidity guy, not just a heat guy. But yeah, this is, you know how people say, well, nothing's perfect. Well, let me tell you something. There are a number of scenarios in my life that I thank Buddha for, or whatever, that are literally perfect. Like, this is literally perfect. Like, there could not be, sorry, cop, there could not be any, like, more benefit to this right now. Like, if I won, like, you know how people are like, well, yeah, you know, you could always win the lottery. No, it doesn't matter. The amount of money that I had in my bank account, like, right now is irrelevant to how I feel. I am fully experiencing what is around me right now, and gratefully, other than that woman back there that hopefully I don't think I bothered, she seemed to smile. I don't believe I'm bothering anybody else. I might be bothering that person up there, but for the most part, I got a whole lot of only child beach going on right now, which, as you know, is also another of the factors that says perfect. So yeah. Now here's the thing. I would occasionally come to places like this, and I would be here for 2, 3, 4 weeks. I would actually be in one spot like this, rarely for more than 1 week. And certainly recently, it would be when, you know, Gracie and I would be together, and I certainly had a finite amount of time, finite amount of vacation, and so therefore, it was like, all right, well, let's check out this one beach, and then 6 days later, let's go to this other beach, you know, so I never really lived. We resided in places for longer than I would submit the average tourist, but for the most part, it was tourism, and now, of course, I'm living here as a tourist, effectively. And I got 2 backpacks. I got my backpack full of clothes, and then I got my backpack full of gear, which is my laptop and chargers and cables and GoPro and, you know, arm thingy, you know, to extend it and all that. Cell phones, because I always travel with a backup. And I would be like, okay, so, you know, you guys, you mean, you think this is like totally impossible to get here? It's like, no, absolutely not. I mean, again, if you're one of these people that are like, oh my God, I could never afford to go on vacation, and you go into Google Flights and you're like, what would it cost me to go somewhere next, you know, in the next month or so? And it's like, no, dude, that's not. When I would get home from my vacations in Thailand in January, I would quite quickly thereafter begin booking my next flight over here. Which, you know, literally saved thousands of dollars. And so there was that ability to be like, no, look, dude, this is totally possible. You know, especially based on the fact that, you know, a lot of people that, and I'm not speaking about any of you, let me just be clear, but I would run into people along the way and they would be like, oh man, I could never afford to do what you do. And then they would get into their $65,000 lifted pickup truck that they were making $850 a month payments on. And I'd be like, bro, you know I drive like a 4-door Honda, right? And to be fair, my Honda was an Acura. But my point is that I didn't drive a Ferrari, right? In other words, that wasn't my version of perfect. That wasn't my... I developed this phrase a while ago. I don't know if I developed it, but I certainly started saying it regularly, and arguably took ownership of it. I took copyright to it, which is less stuff, more experience. Because this right here, and ideally this arm, is intertwined with the fingers of Gracie next to me, but for right now, knowing what is possible, this is still quite perfect. And but enjoying this is more of enjoyment to me than the ownership of a really bitchin' vehicle. Now, you could say, well, right, Mike, I own a really bitchin' vehicle. Yeah, it is a possession, but the experience that I have that brings me joy is driving that car, you know, 110 miles an hour, or, you know, I bought all of this cool suspension stuff because I actually race it on the weekends with SCCA or whatever. Everyone has their own version of experience, but for me, ideal / perfect experience was here, like walking on the beach. Many beaches. I did a video before where I remember I was labeling something as perfect, and then I sort of paused and I said, well, I certainly have everything I need. I got way more than I need, and I got a ton of stuff that I want. But I do recall identifying the fact that there was imperfection in my perfect at that time, because Gracie wasn't with me. But, you know, it's because things are ridiculously inconvenient. I can tell you right now that if we weren't committed to doing what we're doing for basically our family, which is me, Gracie, and her daughter, Iris, then she could absolutely come here. In fact, she could still have gotten on the plane, quite frankly, of the book thing that I made, which was December 15th. She could come over here, she could have quarantined for 15, 16 days, and then by New Year's Eve, she and I could have hung out, and we could spend, you know, 3 weeks together, and then go back based on the appointment that we made in February. But again, you know, we could also be like, oh, forget it. We're not gonna make that appointment. That's not a priority. You know, you come over here and you just stay for as long as we feel like it. Knowing that, you know, another priority for us and a commitment is making sure that on May 26th, they're basically the 25th, really. It's the 24th, rather, that we will be in Hammondan, her hometown, for her mother's 60th birthday, right? That's like really important. And we'll just deal with the, you know, the paperwork stuff that we have for the goals for Iris, and we'll do that later. So I mean, again, it's choices that we've made that make it so that she's not physically here right now. Obviously, one of the choices we didn't make was a global pandemic. And just saying that, you know, I just flashed on that because I think I mentioned this before to you guys, and so I was in IT, right? And I was in basically enterprise IT, meaning that the organization that I ran the IT department for was large enough such that, I mean, in any given year, our top line revenue was like, I don't know, probably 400 million, you know, so, and every now and then we do something really awesome and we get like $500 million for 1 year or whatever. But I mean, it wasn't a, you know, it wasn't $1 trillion company by any means. It wasn't even $1 billion company, but it was a university. And, but nonetheless, part of our IT plans would be disaster recovery, right? And I would always be like, okay, well, just because like you don't have internet, that's not a disaster, that's a disappointment, okay? So there was disappointment recovery, there was disaster recovery, and then there was we've lost everything kind of thing. How do we recover from that? A true disaster. Not a disappointment, not a disagreement, a disaster. And part of that would be coming up with scenarios. So in Southern California, there's fires. So what if there's a fire? Well, that's pretty realistic. There's an earthquake. That's pretty realistic. Never in Boston would I do an IT plan and be like, well, you know, there's a chance of an earthquake. No, there's more of a chance of a hurricane or a snowstorm. So anyway, natural disasters, right? And then there's like, okay, well, what if like we don't have electricity? Like what happens then? Kind of thing. So we would go through all of those scenarios, and we would joke about this in the hallway in the sense that it's like, put it this way, it would be the equivalent of, you know, thinking about having an earthquake in Boston. It's like, yeah, but what if the, you know, it's kind of like, well, what if the sun hits the earth, right? And it would be like, well, what if there's a pandemic? And then I'd be like, well, if that's the case, then pretty much no one's gonna care about IT. But of course, we didn't envision the way it is right now, meaning that there's a pandemic such that the only way for businesses to survive is if they have rock solid IT, and you can do everything remotely, right? I mean, you can't cram a whole bunch of kids into a classroom in front of a whiteboard and start teaching right now in San Diego. You have to have rock solid internet and an infrastructure behind it, be it cloud or on-prem data centers that basically supports it 25 hours a day, 8 days a week kind of thing, you know what I mean? And, but anyway, it was just like so obtuse. It was so outside the realm of possibility that, you know, I mean, it was like, well, we're not even gonna buy insurance for something like this. Now, spoiler alert. The good news though is that of course we're a large enough organization, or the organization I used to be a part of, I'm not a we anymore. They had insurance policies such that it was like kind of like umbrella stuff that you guys have probably heard of. So You know, and they also had like loss of income insurance and all, you know, anyway. So they had the ability to, you know, the data centers aren't on fire. In fact, you know, there's such a disaster, the data centers are gonna have 10 times the amount of traffic, even at 2 in the morning. So we're gonna have to prepare for that. We're gonna have to overspend potentially, or we're gonna have to, you know. Anyway, so out of the realm of possibilities, much like Gracie and I. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna come over there. All right, well, what should I get? All right, honey, well, I'm gonna get us insurance, and I'm gonna get us this bank account. We're gonna have this extra money set aside, and I'm gonna have this ID, and I'm gonna have this other ID, and then I'm gonna get you this ID, and then we're gonna be able to travel, and then you pass, you know, blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't like, okay, but yeah, do I need pandemic insurance? Of course not. And quite frankly, after all of this nonsense is over, I don't think I'm going to be so jaded by all of this that I'm gonna be like, I really need to have some degree of complete disaster, earth on fire, 9 grand hair on fire is what one of my mentors used to call it. 9 grand hair on fire. And if that happens, here's the plan, you know. Run into the dugout and make sure you've got 6 weeks worth of water and what is it, MREs, right? I think those are like the military rat, anyway. Food that lasts several years kind of thing in a bucket. You know, you can survive the worst. And for many people, this is like the worst, right? I get it. So that's why, you know, I have these gratitude attacks, right? Like when I'm waking up on a friggin' Wednesday, and this is what I got going on. So grateful. I'll tell you, the other thing I'm grateful for, I know this kind of sounds cheesy, but the other thing I'm really grateful for is the fact that I have this camera, and like I literally just flashed on, oh, I wonder what about the wind noise. Oh, wait. There won't be any. Thank you, Nicholas. CEO of GoPro. I haven't checked their stock recently. I bought it when it was about 6-ish, like 650, I think, maybe 630. Last time I looked, it was close to 8. But I got my fingers crossed, and I'm hoping for a big Q4 report of tons and tons of revenue and profit come Q1 of next year when they do the Q4 reporting. Fingers crossed, as they say. I just realized I was not walking in the water. I got lazy. I was walking up there on the mainland when I had plenty of opportunity to walk down here instead of up there with the commoners. This is the same beach I was on last night, by the way, and I made it down to, you probably can't see it, but in the distance there are 2 vertical ropes, and that was the rope swing that I sat on last night as we watched the sunset, as we finished that beauty, nature's beauty last night. And so that's another nice thing. I'm walking now. I have walked this whole beach before, to the point where I walked all the way down to those rocks in the distance, which you maybe can't see right now. Oh, this is gonna get a little, oh God, my feet are like sinking in the sand. It's like, oh my God, I'm getting in quicksand. But anyway, that's a little rocky, so I'm gonna stay away from that. But a lot more slope to the beach here, but still, well, perfect. Because part of being perfect is the imperfections that are there at the time. Anyway, so those rocks lay down there. I did a couple of things when I was on those rocks the first time. First is write a postcard to my mom. The second, or third, fourth, and fifth, was the thoughts and possible planning questions I would ask myself, a la, hey, how do I live here like full time? Now, I never envisioned, I mean, literally, like what I'm doing right now, a lot of what I'm doing right now, like this second right now, this was my fantasy. Like this was just simply like, okay, right, like I'm gonna basically be staying in Phuket for 25 bucks a night. You know, all in, including my motorbike rental, it's gonna cost me 1,000 baht a day. Come on. My lasagna last night cost me more than my room. But I'll tell you something, it was some of the best lasagna I've ever had in my life. Thank you, Hans, at Grill Bill. And I'm sitting on those rocks and I'm like, okay, how do I make this possible? And here's why I want to share that story with you guys and why I think it's important. Sitting on those rocks thinking, how the heck do I make it here? Like, I have no plan. I have no, you know, I mean, I didn't have like an unlimited amount of money. I couldn't just like quit my job at the time and move over here. And, you know, I mean, oh my God, how do you go from getting a job in IT in San Diego to making anywhere close to that money doing anything IT related anywhere in Southeast Asia, with maybe the exception of Singapore and or Hong Kong, where you could, of course, take 90% of your salary and end up spending it on living expenses. So I'm just like, nah, I don't see, it would be really nice to be able to do this. Guys, I did the exact same thing about 2 years before I ended up going through what I went through. And I don't mean like, you know, going through camp. No, it wasn't like detrimental, but meaning the steps that I went through that I hadn't planned at the time either. I was sitting on the beach in Coronado, looking out basically over the Pacific, which is what you do when you're in Coronado. And being like, and fantasizing, like there's no, how in the world am I gonna be able to live in Coronado? It's so expensive. Minimum, you know, like the cheapest condo is like $1.5 million and kind of thing. So, but then like 2 years later, there I was. I sold my house and moved into this place that I only thought was gonna last 3 months. And 6 years later, I gave my notice, right? And then moved to Thailand. So it's scenarios like that that I have in my past that I really am grateful that I was like, you know, conscious enough and sober enough and sort of self-aware enough that I remember them. And I look back and I'm like, you know, so I'll share this with you. I believe that anyone watching this, if you don't have a plan to get from like point A to point B, don't worry about it, but do not stop fantasizing about like what it might be like. What it might be like to just be a hang glider for the rest of my life. Like, what would that be like? How in the world am I going to be able to write the great American novel? I don't want to do that. Sorry, I don't want to quit my job and just do that, because all of these reasons why that won't work, right? And keep thinking about it, because I'll tell you, man, the series of events that occurred from the time that I sat on those rocks for the first time and thought, man, I love this place, I just want to hang out here. And it wasn't like, and trust me, I didn't go down there and just like touch the rock so it counted and then walk back. I went down there and I sat there for a long time. I think I might have even journaled. I can't remember that part. I might have, but I do remember being there for an amount of time that was very enjoyable, but also quite lengthy. So these guys have their fishing net there. Pretty cool. And okay, so to give you an idea of where I am, so that is the Intercontinental right there. And it looks like these guys are meeting, potentially talking with like food and beverage managers, maybe planning something, who knows. I'm sure it's quite gorgeous. And in fact, if I had more points in my IHG account, I probably might stay there for one night. IHG, sorry, Intercontinental Hotels Group. Many of you probably have heard of the Intercontinental. I'm quite certain you've all heard of Holiday Inn. That's their biggest brand. But yeah, it looks awesome, and if I didn't have to basically be there distracted by the cost, I'd probably go and enjoy myself. But it's difficult to find a place that literally has the exact same view that I do right now for less than for less than 700 baht a night. So, because I think on Agoda, I think I'm paying like 668 or whatever, and then it's like, you know, taxes and stuff like that. I am gonna ask the girl when I get back there actually if they would prefer, if I'm gonna stay a few more nights, if they would prefer I just pay them cash versus like going through Agoda. So I do not believe that is an extension right there of the Intercontinental. It might be. I do not see the name of it. The one in the distance there that has like, you know, pink/orange around it, that is the Novotel. And I remember seeing that the last time I was here, meaning that, you know, like the 6-7 years ago. and thinking, yeah, those are pretty cool. And specifically those little like bungalows right there that are like right on the water. And if you remember from yesterday, like when the water comes up, right? I mean, like all of this is water, and so it's kind of neat. I mean, it's literally like right out in front of you. Sawadee Krap. And so I thought, yeah, maybe I'll stay there. And in fact, considering I'm not streaming this and recording it, I will actually do a quick check on Agoda and find out how much Novotel is this evening. I'm staying at the current place for 2 more nights, so it's not like I would jump ship tonight. But that would be curious for me. But what I'm not gonna do is stop walking, because I want to figure out how long it took me to basically walk from one end to the other. Because as far as I'm concerned, this is a really good walking beach. So in the future then, I'm gonna have to like sort of rate my walking beaches. Hello. On, well, is it as long as Kamala Beach? So anyway, so Agoda. And then of course you're gonna want to advertise like crazy to me, even though I'm already on your app and you need to somehow convince me to convince me. I don't get you. Anyway, so, oh, sorry, didn't mean to stop walking. Novotel. Novotel, Kamala Beach. God, and they just, I mean, you can't just like give me the regular price, dude. Jesus. Wow. 997 baht. Now, those are probably for the rooms up there. So what are these? I guess you would call them, that looks probably like a 2-bedroom villa. Oh God, it's like 2 stories. That's probably quite large. But what about these little ones in front here? Let's see what those are. Hold on, I do got to do the whole thing. I don't want to get, this is what it's like living with, well, my brain, but this is like what it's living with ADD. I guess that's what I have, I don't know. I find it to be, I call it mental entertainment. I don't get so distracted that, you know, that my life ends up being detrimental to me because I have, yeah, so that 997 is a superior twin, which is, I'm pretty sure, way up there. 3rd or 4th floor kind of thing. Let's see what else they got. Trying to see if they have like bungalow listed. Okay, there we go. Superior King Room, Superior Ocean Side, or Ocean Room, or Ocean Villa, which has a bathroom. Ocean Suite, Suite with ocean view. I tell you what, let's go to Superior Ocean Side. Oh, that just simply means that it's Superior Room up there, so that's not it. Ocean Room, Ocean Villa, Ocean Suite. Looking at the picture, it looks as if it looks right out there. So that's 72 square meters, so it's large. And that is 3,851 baht tonight. So with a normal price of 9,126 baht. So basically it's like, you know, it's like $160. Is that about right? $140 maybe. Normally like 300. So, you know, I mean, again, significant discounts, but 3,000 baht, I mean, I'm sure it's awesome, and, you know, but I don't want to bother. I am not 100% sure, but I do believe the last time I was here, I was actually here at a time where the water was fairly low. So it could have been this rock here that I sat on. But you know what? Honestly, I think, God, I should have like carved something in it, right? But I doubt it, considering the weather here. I doubt it would have been, but I think it was this one. I think it was, oh, maybe it was that one. I think it was one of these. I believe it was one of these rocks here, that one or this one or that one or whatever. And that's where I hung out. Let's see what we got for time here. So I am at, oh wow, okay, so basically it took 35 minutes for me to walk from one end to the other. So that seems like a pretty nice amount of time for a video, actually. And so with that, I will upload this, and I'm going to take some moments to hang out here. Because I will tell you, and this may happen to you guys, sometimes when I have these fantasies that come true, quite frankly, sometimes when I have these scenarios that I picture that I'm like, I have no idea how it's gonna happen, but yet it still comes true. And I get to those places and I'm experiencing them, I'm like, oh my God, I never knew, I can't believe, you know, this is so amazing. I get a little bit overwhelmed. I have a gratitude attack, which is awesome, right? But in doing so, part of me says, okay, well, I've made it. Like, well, so now what? I mean, I savor it is the short answer, is now what? But, you know, what's my next big thing that I can't imagine will happen, but yet does or will? So anyway, that's what I'm gonna spend a little bit of time doing, hanging out there on my rocks. And I'll give you guys one last view of this bucket of awesome sauce. On my 35-minute beach walk. With that, it's Mike from LiveMyAssOff.com saying I hope you're living the dream, because if you're not living the dream, then there's a possibility that you actually had an idea that you're like, oh, that could never happen, or that won't happen, or I don't have the resources to have that happen. Because I'll tell you right now, I literally sat right there and thought to myself, that can't happen. I don't have the resources to make that happen. How will I ever have that happen? I don't believe that I'm undeserving of it, but for some reason it's not going to happen, and then boom. Here I am. If you think you can, even the slightest, I bet you're right. I'll talk to you guys soon. Ciao.